Hi, warm greetings to all of you. Welcome back to BION, the channel that shares knowledge for holistic self-development through great books. There was once a man like this. He had great ambition, yet his own mother mocked him, saying the books he wrote were only fit to be used as wrapping paper for tobacco. He was extremely talented and independent, showing early on a remarkable gift for deep thinking and keen observation. As a young man, he completed a work later regarded as a masterpiece of philosophy. The world is will and representation. However, for more than half of his life, things did not go smoothly. His peers envied him. Many people secretly disparaged him, and very few readers knew of his books. It was only when he was over 60 years old that a British critic discovered his work. After publication, he quickly became famous worldwide. This man who endured neglect and solitude for over 6 decades, who lived his life at odds with the mainstream, yet steadfastly walked his own path, was none other than Arthur Schopenhauer, the great German philosopher. He left a profound influence on some of the most famous figures in philosophy, literature, psychology, and physics, such as Nietzsche, Wagner, Freud, and even Einstein. Schopenhauer was known as the philosopher of pessimism, yet his pessimism was not despair, but rather a deep insight into the darker aspects of human nature and the world. From within that darkness, he still pointed toward the light, seeking ways to help people live more wisely and more happily. In his final work, The Wisdom of Life, he discussed happiness for the first time, and asserted that to live a happy life is not about chasing after happiness, but about being free from suffering. So, how can we free ourselves from suffering? This less traveled path is only for those souls who long to awaken, willing to keep distance from noise, pleasures, and vanity. Though written in the 19th century, the philosophy in this book remains strikingly relevant today. People use parties and social gatherings to cover up the poverty of their inner life. They use material possessions to fill the deep void within. As Schopenhauer himself wrote, "The richer a man's inner life, the less he will be influenced by the external world. Those who possess true inner wealth and depth will find complete fulfillment. They need not sacrifice themselves for the demands of others, nor abandon their true selves to belong to the crowd." By contrast, ordinary people drown themselves in constant social interactions, endlessly compromising. Understanding Schopenhauer's philosophy. ULLC. Why those with rich inner lives often find it difficult to blend in with the crowd. People who seem a little strange because they enjoy solitude are even considered eccentric may, in fact, be the ones holding the key to happiness. And now, I invite you to listen to a reflection from Battle Vision, titled, "The Richer Your Inner World, the Harder It Is to Fit In," inspired by the classic philosophical work, The Wisdom of Life, You will always suffer if you cannot recognize the paradox of the pendulum. This was the stark warning from the philosopher Schopenhauer, who argued that humanity's happiness is trapped between two eternal enemies, suffering and boredom. Life, in his view, is like a pendulum that endlessly swings between these two extremes, pain or dullness, without ever finding a true resting point. Poverty, he argued, breeds suffering, while abundance inevitably leads to boredom. Schopenhauer observed that the lives of most people resemble this unceasing pendulum, constantly torn between two poles. On one end lies the pain of deprivation, the struggle to make a living, the yearning for love and recognition, the deep longing to be understood by others. On the other end lies the boredom of excess, a state where money is abundant and goals have been achieved, yet a profound sense of meaning and true value remains absent, leaving only a hollow emptiness behind. This pendulum keeps swinging back and forth, never resting in a state of balance. The pendulum, as Schopenhauer described it, is a powerful symbol for human desire. When a desire is unfulfilled, it burns with the fire of anxiety. When it is finally fulfilled, it freezes over with the ice of emptiness. He keenly pointed out that we desperately crave what we do not have, only to grow weary and dissatisfied with it once we have achieved it. Today, modern science shows us that humans are trapped in what is known as the dopamine cycle. When you crave a certain goal, your dopamine levels rise, creating a powerful motivation that drives you to pursue it. But the moment you achieve that goal, your dopamine levels drop sharply, leaving a void of emptiness in their wake. Your brain then urges you to seek out a new goal, a new desire, in order to raise your dopamine levels once again. And so, the cycle repeats itself endlessly. Ask yourself this. Think about those items you once eagerly purchased. The initial joy fades almost immediately after you hold them in your hands. This relentless cycle makes our lives resemble the myth of Tantalus from Greek mythology. He was punished to stand in a clear lake, tormented by an unquenchable thirst. Yet, every time he bent down to drink, the water would recede, leaving him forever thirsty, forever in a state of want. Of course, in our society, money and material possessions are necessary for survival. But material wealth never determines happiness simply by its quantity. Research in social psychology confirms this, showing that between earning $1 and $1,000, the quality of life differs drastically. Because without money, survival itself is impossible. Yet, between earning $1 million and $100 million, that $99 million difference hardly changes one's level of happiness once basic needs are met. Chasing $100 million, or even $1 billion, to multiply your happiness, it is like pouring water into a bottomless jar, a futile effort that yields no lasting fulfillment. The hedonic treadmill theory in modern psychology also confirms Schopenhauer's philosophy. This theory suggests that humans believe they are constantly moving forward, making progress toward greater happiness, but in reality, they remain in the same place. Science concludes that when you achieve a major goal like buying a house or getting a promotion, you feel a temporary surge of happiness, but you soon return to your baseline level of happiness, as if nothing had changed. As people often say, desire kills happiness. You may know this intellectually, but have you ever truly stopped to ask yourself, are you that pendulum? Do you feel that you are constantly lacking something unable to travel as much as you'd like? Eat exotic foods, shop freely, advance in your career, or free yourself from the control and expectations of others. Or perhaps you have already achieved a life of stability and material abundance, yet you still find yourself chasing fleeting pleasures and distractions just to fill a monotonous, uninspired existence. Are you, as Schopenhauer once described, like a person dying of thirst in the middle of the ocean drinking salt water only to become even thirstier? Whether you swing toward one end of the pendulum or the other, you will find traces of both extremes within your experience. Life becomes a meaningless, acrobatic act, a performance of endlessly repeating the cycle of gain and loss, of desire and disappointment. Schopenhauer foresaw this dilemma with startling clarity back in the 19th century. He, along with other wise thinkers throughout history, pointed toward one ultimate solution. As long as you live your life like this pendulum, you can never be truly and lastingly happy. Instead of chasing the pendulum, instead of allowing yourself to be endlessly tossed about by external forces and fleeting desires, the answer is to turn inward. It is time to embark on the journey within yourself and begin to live a life that is rich and abundant in spirit. The price of going against the current of choosing inner richness instead of pursuing external wealth is that the richer your inner life becomes, the harder it may be to fit in. Schopenhauer said, "The more a person possesses within themselves, the less they need from the outside world, and the less importance other people hold for them. Those with a rich inner world are often not easy to integrate with others. Society operates on shared conventions from how we communicate to how success is measured. When you choose to live true to your spiritual needs, you step outside of that current. You stop seeking self-worth through the eyes of others. Inside you grows a courage to be different in lifestyle, in thought, and in the values you defend. You refuse meaningless social gatherings, decline empty drinking parties, stay silent before idle gossip, bravely end toxic relationships, avoid chasing trends, and do not work merely for more money or higher status. All of this makes you appear strange in the eyes of others. They may think you arrogant, difficult, or even mediocre and unsuccessful simply because you don't fit the crowd's standards. But in truth, this so-called difficulty in fitting in does not mean you've become cold or antisocial. It means you no longer waste time on things that do not align with you. You refuse outings, meals, and gatherings not out of contempt for others, but because you would rather read, meditate, or write. You don't join career competitions or chase KPIs out of laziness, but because you prefer to focus on meaningful work. This conscious selection may cost you superficial social ties, but in return you build deeper connections with others and with yourself based on sincerity. Schopenhauer himself is clear proof of this. Born into one of Europe's wealthiest merchant families, he grew up surrounded by luxury. Many assume that because he didn't have to struggle for survival, he despised money. Yet Schopenhauer never denied the role of economics. He openly admitted that money frees people from the burden of survival. But beyond that, it is only decoration for pride. His family's fortune allowed him to focus on philosophy without worrying about livelihood. Yet he did not trade his inner freedom to become the exemplary heir his family expected. While society wanted him to continue the family business, Schopenhauer chose instead to write about the essence of human existence, a lonely and doubtful path, but one true to himself. Imagine being offered 100 billion on the condition that you must spend your entire life doing work you don't love. Of course, you could do it, but every morning you wake up to emptiness in your heart. Would you accept? The answer depends on how you define wealth. For Schopenhauer, material wealth is just an endless target for those pendulums that lose themselves. True wealth comes from the richness of the inner spiritual life. Society constantly encourages people to be sociable. A sociable person is praised for being open, friendly, easy to get along with, without separation. But if you over-integrate with the crowd, you cannot harmonize with yourself. Sociability is not the same as harmony. Sociability without honesty toward yourself becomes artificial conformity yourself into meaningless activities, laughing insincerely, maintaining relationships based only on material benefit, or betraying your principles just to be liked. Likewise, friendliness does not equal flattery. True friendliness is smiling sincerely at a street sweeper, while refusing to attend a corrupt official's banquet. It is listening deeply to a stranger's story without ever pretending to agree with something against your conscience. Schopenhauer believed that social interaction is indeed necessary, but it must be genuine encounters between souls, honest communication with one another. That is the true sociability of a rich inner life. His philosophy also shows us that the secret of wise living lies in learning to dance with the world. Sometimes moving forward, sometimes stepping back, sometimes turning around, but never losing the rhythm of your own inner self. A person with a rich inner world does not reject society, but redefines how to connect with it. What matters most to them is first, a genuine connection with themselves. No matter what hardships or suffering your life may face, always remember, on this journey, sincerity and love for yourself are what matter most. When a person turns toward enriching their inner life, they will naturally begin to simplify their desires. They reduce unnecessary wants, and in doing so, lessen their burdens. Do you see? Adults often get lost in the forest of endless desires, but when a baby rests in their mother's arms, having just enough milk and a good night's sleep, a happy smile is always present on their lips. Schopenhauer pointed out that if we wish to avoid being enslaved by desire, The most important thing we must first do is to learn to let go or release worries about the future, regrets about the past, and live fully in the present moment. Dwelling on the past thinking, why didn't I seize that opportunity? So now I suffer. Or why did this happen to me? Only deepens regret. Meanwhile, anxieties about the future. If I don't buy a house now, will prices skyrocket? If I don't have money, how will I survive later? Will only destroy our peace and ruin our focus on the present. His sincere advice is, for those future outcomes that have not yet happened, live as though they may never come. Don't let tomorrow or yesterday steal the breath of today. Schopenhauer never urged us to abandon every material desire, but he reminded us that true freedom begins when we can distinguish between genuine needs and vain illusions. Everything beyond that is nothing more than society's meaningless game. Let money remain a tool that serves the spirit, not a master that enslaves us to desire. The next principle is to know clearly what you want. From a young age, Schopenhauer recognized the path his life would take. He said, "A person who secretly knows what is destined in their heart is like a worker building its hive relentlessly, fulfilling its fate. An inner life that is truly rich belongs to those who understand what they want and remain steadfast in pursuing it. To reach this self-knowledge, we must practice discipline and accumulate understanding. Only then can we see what truly suits us and create value through our work." In his first and second years at university, Schopenhauer built a broad intellectual foundation by studying physics, physiology, botany, anthropology, law, and more. His notebooks were filled with affirmations, refutations, doubts, and reflections on lectures. He never stopped exploring, expanding his knowledge through foreign languages. Schopenhauer mastered 7 languages, which enabled him to read and fully absorb the classics. For him, books were a miniature universe. Those who do not read live only one life. He devoured works of philosophy and classical literature, treating books as companions and as a way to converse with great minds. This constant pursuit of knowledge, sharpening his reasoning and strengthening his critical thinking, allowed him to understand himself and recognize his life as mission early on. To understand oneself is the first gateway to freedom. No matter your age or profession, it is never too late to learn to truly and deeply know yourself. Read books, train your abilities, transform the way you learn, explore your interests and strengths. When you understand yourself, you will know your talents and the role your life is meant to play. And from there, dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to meaningful work, not merely for status, wealth, gain, or competition. The next step is to embrace creative solitude. Schopenhauer is regarded as the father of the philosophy of solitude, because he glorified loneliness, but because he recognized a profound truth. Only in moments of solitude can the mind be still enough to create and to perceive the essence of life. He declared, either solitude or mediocrity. For humans, there are only 2 choices. Dare to be alone to cultivate wisdom, or blend into the crowd and become a blurred copy of others. Creative solitude differs from forced isolation. It is not an escape, but a conscious withdrawal from shallow noise in order to hear the voice of the soul. Schopenhauer spent much of his time alone in his study reading, writing, conversing with philosophers through the written word. This allowed him to see into the essence of desire, the absurdity of existence, and to produce timeless works. So in Sagan, I want to remind you, allow moments of silence to embrace you. Spend more time alone, breathe deeply, and welcome solitude. In stillness, the inner life has the chance to grow rich, and only then can you discover the hidden strength within yourself. Do not become too joyful or too sorrowful over anything. Our judgments of what is good or bad are often illusions. Many people once despaired over a misfortune, only to later realize it was a blessing in disguise. Conversely, What once seemed a source of great happiness often turns into the root of suffering. Life is impermanent. What we call good or bad is only our perspective in the moment. Many have wept endlessly over a broken love, but years later, they see it as a chance to mature. Others rejoiced at a promotion, only to later be crushed by its stress and fall into depression. Schopenhauer did not promote indifference, but rather the letting go of clinging to outcomes, so that we can see each event as a link in the endless chain of cause and effect. The important thing is to keep the mind calm, not swept away by emotions. Joy comes, not too elated. When sorrow comes, not drowning in it. Only then can we remain unshaken by external circumstances and continue steadily on the inward journey. Finally, one of Schopenhauer's classic statements, "A healthy beggar is happier than a sick king." Health is the foundation of everything, including the journey toward inner richness. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "The greatest folly is to sacrifice health in pursuit of any other happiness." Ask yourself, are you working today only to buy medicine in the future? Are you turning yourself into a slave to money and work, only to spend that money later repairing a broken body? Or even in small daily matters, have you been sitting for hours without standing up to walk? Did you stay up late scrolling on your phone last night? How long has it been since you woke up early to exercise, breathe fresh air, and greet the morning sun? What have you eaten this past week? Your body is speaking. Are you listening or ignoring it? Schopenhauer pointed out a simple truth. Youth is the time to acquire wisdom. Old age is the time to apply it. Yet most people confuse the two, destroying their health in youth to gain wisdom only in old age. Health is 1, everything else is 0. Without health, everything else is like flowers reflected in water or the moon mirrored in a pond, an illusion. If you still lack discipline in caring for your health, if you don't exercise regularly, don't eat balanced and healthy meals, don't rest in rhythm with nature, don't spend time outdoors in sunlight and fresh air, then you will remain trapped in the pendulum of endless suffering. Only when you live in a healthy body can wisdom truly shine. Above are the core principles of happiness, and Schopenhauer's way of thinking about how to nurture a truly rich inner life, an abundant inner life. I've tried to summarize and present his profound philosophies in the simplest and most accessible way. However, there is no single path to cultivating a rich spiritual world. Each soul has its own direction, and every individual has their own way of nurturing their inner life. The ideas of Schopenhauer in this book serve only as a reference map. There are countless other practices that can enrich our spirit, for example, meditation and mindfulness. Although not mentioned explicitly in the book, Schopenhauer himself often sat in silence for hours, or considered artistic creation. In his work, The World as Will and Representation, he described art as a remedy for the sufferings of human existence. From the perspective of the 21st century, we can see Schopenhauer's philosophy becoming reality. An era where material abundance has given rise to a spiritual desert unprecedented in history. Faces devoid of life scrolling endlessly on their phones in the subway. The constant chorus of buy, in non-stop life. The rise of the fear of missing out culture as young crowds squeeze into music festivals, or the obsession with a virtual existence just to prove they are living. Meanwhile, the mind lies dormant in unconsciousness. People purchase dozens of outfits each month, yet complain they have nothing to wear. Faces hidden behind flawless filters. Humanity losing its true features to become idealized versions and images. New illnesses of the modern age, burnout syndrome, anxiety disorders have become invisible epidemics, exposing the poverty of the soul amidst the notion of desires and suffocating expectations. The wellness craze grew stronger. People spend fortunes on yoga retreats, costly meditation programs, and yet still cannot detox their souls from craving and competition. Tourism explodes. People rush to tick off world wonders and take check-in photos, yet never paused long enough to feel the breath of the earth and sky. Then comes fast life culture. Hurried meals of delivered food, instant romances through Tinder, children growing up in international schools, but not knowing how to sing a single folk song. And now in the age of AI amid smart cities, from transport to healthcare, from writing essays to content creation, people are losing the ability to converse face-to-face and to think independently, borrowing artificial intelligence to race against time and make more money. Until one day, looking back, they realize that their reliance on AI has turned them into beta versions of the very technology they use, existing only to function, no longer living to awaken and experience. In the end, lives continue to repeat the same social template that materialistic culture glorifies. Study, work, marry, climb the ladder, earn money, fall ill, and die only to start the cycle anew. Yet, amidst this whirlpool, there are still awakened individuals who choose another path, turning inward to cultivate inner wealth. They meditate at sunrise, live simply in material terms, enjoy solitude, and cherish that space. They converse with books in deep concentration. They love learning, preserve independent thought, and maintain inner stillness in noisy cities. They delve into philosophy, explore spiritual science, dedicate themselves to community, and live with gratitude and generosity. They are different, not blending in with the crowd, yet in harmony with nature, all beings, and their own true selves. Their difficulty in blending with society is not an antisocial disorder but a conscious choice. Having understood the essence of existence, they are like snow lotuses, flowers that bloom only on the peaks of the Himalayas, never in urban gardens. Rich souls are the same. They walk their own path, a path not meant for the masses. And what about you? Which path will you choose? Give yourself a moment of silence to reflect right now. I await the most authentic answer from you. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who may need it. Hibi me a like, click subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to watch the latest videos every week. Thank you, and see you in the next video.